Alrighty, guys. It's another all-star cast. I'm your host, Sully. Got two of the free MVPs from SciFi Remnant. We got Giancarlo.
How's everybody doing?
And we got the main macho man himself, Robert.
Hello there.
Hello there.
The boss.
I found it appropriate to talk about all these creatures, all these unusual, supernatural, sci-fi blockbusters, and what other than talking about the movie that made Spielberg box office draw. I mean, we can talk about other elements of the sequels if you want, but I think we're going to mainly keep in the main avenue.
Yeah.
So why do you find it interesting how this kind of made this part of his shtick, whether it was producing other blockbusters like Gremlins or doing similar movies years later like Jurassic Park? Why did Spielberg kind of become unanimous with the creature feature?
That's a great way to put it, the creature feature. But and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. What do you think? Too? But I think that back then, filmmaking and entertainment was a lot simpler than today. And I mean, when you look at this is shark and then people running for their lives. It's simpler. It's like a nemesis and a group of people working together, terrorized. And that sometimes people don't want to go and burn their brain thinking about a deep plot or something like that. They just want to go and get entertained, which is totally fine, It's like Sharknadoes today. Like, I don't know how you have Sharknadoes,
There's so many of those, and it's also kind of funny how they'll vary by their mood versus what they want to see. But my shtick is we'll see some of these other blockbuster movies and you'll see them kind of getting mad at this and that, but then they're giving similar movies a pass. I'm like, well, hold on a sec. What made this stand out more?
Yeah.
Oh, it was more awesome. Okay, well, I thought this one was also awesome. Whatever.
I'm going to differ from
no, it's fine.
Captain Chaos' opinion here for a little
Wow, I love a Robert and I outside the show because then he's very contradictory.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We want everybody to talk about what they love.
Yeah, just a little bit. And if you have follow us, you know that we differ, and it's okay. And I think the times were easy and hard at the same time for filmmaking. Hard because some of the technologies that might make some of the shoots easier to do were not invented yet. Easier because there was no it didn't have a lot of process, and I think the reason why I'm saying this, and going back to Steven Spielberg, this is what I think made him the how you called it, Cam, the creature feature
blockbuster magnet, supernatural sci-fi guy.
Exactly, because when he went to do this film, he didn't have any idea, so he went off the cuff. He tried to be inventive, which in that case, since we didn't have that many other procedures for film, made it easy for him to kind of write the book on that. And I almost feel, in a sense, that maybe he got lucky because he was a pioneer. However, I don't think luck has anything to do with it, because if you put someone else in the same position that didn't have the inventive chops, he might have not done the amazing job that he did on Jaws. So that's the reason why I said yes and no to Captain Chaos there.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, could it be somebody else? Could it be somebody else that just done a good movie that started a movement or something like that,
Totally. Exactly. It was a crapshoot. He was, kind of like Temple of Doom when he's going for a divorce and he was bitter. He kind of just had to channel all his energy and just stay calm. And I think so many other filmmakers, they just lose it or they get blacklisted because they're having too many arguments behind the scenes with producers. And instead of just,
doing the job,
getting angry, he just kept trying to do his best. And so I think this is a learning process because, you brought up, different genres and movie mashups. It's kind of an adventure movie. It's horror, but not in just the way that it's trying to be nasty, like a slasher, or that there's torture. Just that there's creature effects and there's occasional gore.
Exactly.
And
It's like there's a Jaws. There's not even a bad guy. There's not a bad guy. It's a shark.
Right. It's not like the Alien where it's bad, but it's hunting people. It's not like the Predator, but it's similar. I don't think you would even have the original Alien if you didn't have Jaws, because this kind of did ignite all the Alien is more like the creature from the Black Lagoon. This is kind of more just like a typical just nature versus mankind. And I see people trying to smack talk like how you could or couldn't do this, disposing of it, but just again, the music each time it hits, especially in that opening, like I know exactly what to expect. I think the speech that Robert Shaw rewrote, I think is just compelling. It's just so rare now because like you'll see so many other experiment gone wrong movies or creatures versus mankind, and you just kind of, I mean, we were talking off air about Game of Thrones, but I feel like Walking Dead also does this too, where there's just too many characters feel like plot devices. Like they're there to be the jerk or the asshole who gets defeated that season. And in the book, apparently the mayor is more crooked and refusing to close it down, something that's hit upon in the knockoff film Piranha, which got Joe Dante the gig with Spielberg and allowed him to work on Gremlins with him. So I think that's funny because when he was looking at the book, he's like, yeah, we got to rewrite these characters because they're not very likable for a movie, and the politicians, they're just going to bore and make the audience unengaged. So they're not dumb. They can put it together that this town is not competently run, and it takes a sheriff, and a scientist and a hunter. That's all I need.
I think it's a shark.
It's an RPG before that was a thing. He used to have an orc, a wizard, and a dwarf. It's like now here this is in real life. So and
it's true. And I'll tell you something. Like I see that the IPs that are most successful is even when they're bold enough to make an adaptation to the change of medium, they stick to the main structure of the story. As long as it doesn't detour too much, it usually doesn't lose a following or liking from the viewer.
For once, man. For once.
like for example, you mentioned as a good example, you mentioned Walking Dead. I started watching the Walking Dead show, then I started reading the comic, and I couldn't stand watching the show. Like I had to stop it.
No, that's fine.
They went separate ways, and that's only one example of many others that Roy even can attest that there are several mediums. There's books, there's a movie, there's a comic, and as long as they stick together to the kind of like the main story, they're all very successful.
Yeah, like the Avatar movie.
Yeah, there's that, and I mean, you guys have talked about The Expanse recently, and I feel like there's so many movies and shows that don't have a cool idea, but they don't know when to stop. And so it's
what I call great idea, terrible execution.
Exactly. It's just like, and I get it. I get that pitching it is hard. I get that sometimes some of these guys who are running the show aren't doing their jobs. So it's a lot to kind of process.
sometimes also people get desperate. Like people don't know to wait for the right moment to go forward with something. I know I've seen things that had great potential, and then they flop when they come out. And because they didn't wait, because they didn't write better the story or something. It has happened many times. I've seen it too.
Too many times. Yeah. I applaud anytime someone has a backup plan, like J. Michael Straczynski had with Babylon 5, where he was just like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Okay. The studio wants this. I'll do half of what they want to do without disrupting my story.
Yeah.
And it's like, they want this actor who happens to be, believe it or not, unprofessional. But at the same time, this guy is angering everyone on the cast, so we're going to kill him off like halfway through the season or film. And That actually happened. There was like this one actor. He thought he was hot stuff, and they were like, "Okay, so we're gonna film him in as little scenes with anyone else as possible, and we're not gonna tell him the plot twist until the day." I think he'll get the message.
Oh my god, that's a funny way to see it, actually. But it's true.
One of the things that amazes me about this film is that this film almost didn't get made.
I don't think you could even make it now. Like, I think everyone would just want to focus too much on how the sharks look, and there just wouldn't be enough to character development and suspense.
Yeah.
But getting there, the book was kind of it was a bestseller, but it was kind of mocked by critics who looked at it subjectively. So eventually,
I'm sorry, even before that, I was just going to say, I think it was Peter Bentley. He got an advance for the book.
Yes, he did. Yep.
And he didn't write anything. And then I think his forgot the name of the people who gave them the advance. They said, you don't have anything. If you don't provide by this date, you're gonna give us, the advance back, which he didn't have.
Yeah.
So
he kind of did, and it's kind of funny because Spielberg kind of did that with Crichton, where he bought the book rights before James Cameron and these other blockbuster people could respond to it, and then he pretty much just told Crichton up front, by the way, you get to write the screenplay and launch your movie career. You got an idea for a TV show? How about I help you create this little known idea you got called ER? and I find it funny how he kind of gave everybody these notes, but I think he learned it from the hardship on this movie. Like, he told Joe Dante on Gremlins to, hey, you got a great idea, but have Spike the evil gremlin die instead of Gizmo, turn into a creature and have to be killed, and keep the mom alive. It's too much for the audience. And then we'll let you do what you want in your next movie. Same deal with ER. He's like, okay, love how you shot the pilot, acting and character development's great, style's great. Keep Juliana Margulies alive. Boom. He always has like one little note, and it's always kind of a don't kill this person, don't kill that. And I like how anyone else would kind of get on their high horse or get too self-indulgent, I think. And he doesn't make the wife whiny, and he knew the creature didn't look 100%. So he's like, okay, fortunately it was not working. So he did not use it until he absolutely had to get some B-roll of the creature, in motion.
The other difference too that you guys didn't mention, or maybe blind, that you cannot make the movie like it was made back then too, is now everything is relied on CGI, pure CGI. Back then you had these robots with water that look like sharks, right, Robert?
Well, the movie was
special effects.
This movie was a product of the hardships that the crew had when they built it.
Yep.
So, like, the shark didn't work like 80% of the time.
Not
much
at all. Yeah, it's just
the crew had to work. What was it? 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So they're all like, in a bad mood. They were filming in the ocean.
It was real terror in the studio.
Real water.
Real terror in the studio. Every time they do these things that don't work, their nemesis.
It's insane. This movie actually finished. And what we get, we could not have gotten if it wasn't under those conditions.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I didn't know that fact, man.
Oh yeah, it was insane. It's just like cameras will fall in the water, and all boats will go in front of the frame. Oh, we got to reshoot again. And you imagine be a crew. You get ready for the shot, you take the shot, and then they tell you got to reshoot again.
And because
you're like,
he didn't lose his cool, he didn't lose the money.
That's true, because these were not the times for cell phones, waterproof cameras. None of these existed.
Yeah, we didn't have GoPro or anything, or
oh Lord, man.
We
Now
can
it's
have a
dawning on
Discovery
me.
Channel crew who could shoot on video versus film.
Oh yeah.
Different times.
So many
It,
different
it
times.
just I just get goosebumps just realizing that fact. That it would be very easy for them to, for anyone on to lose their cool and then
Yeah.
forget it. We're not making this. Let's move on to something else. This is impossible. Uh, and this is a reason why we get the shots that we got in the film. Because either the thing wasn't working or they were not in the mood. The actors themselves, I'm imagine they were in a bad mood too because they were reshooting and it was a long day and it's just I don't know if you knew this, Gio, but every time I remember this, I'm like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't dawn on me until now that you guys mentioned it that there were not back then the comforts portability that we have today, and like so you could be comfortable in a yacht or on a boat filming, cell phone. So like you're running with somebody, you gotta be in the radio. It was more primitive. It never dawned on me at all.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's because when I watched this movie, then we already was long time ago filmed. I watched in '98. This movie came out '75, and it makes it more interesting and it helps you appreciate it actually more.
I promise you, we
Okay.
will definitely do more Spielberg revisitations. Like we'll do kind of his theme trilogies. That would definitely be part of his coming of age trilogy. While the other movies he's done are often kind of historical epics or uh, adventure
Yeah.
trilogies. He has so many movies that you could probably say are kind of loose sequels to one another that aren't Indiana Jones. But in many ways,
Oh yeah.
like that, all these characters I feel could exist in the Indiana Jones family in some capacity because they like even Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, like he uh is very much about looking at the science facts and not trying to overthink this or argue
Hmm.
with the people who don't believe him. And I
Yeah.
feel like you get a bit of that from Richard Dreyfuss where he's like, he inserts the right amount of dry humor with, I don't know what we're doing here. I've never seen anything like this. And so this crosses off the number one rule of screenwriting for me, where the uh, they always say if you want to just cover up some of the plot holes in your movie, always have a scientist explaining your premise, so that way you can
Hmm.
handle the implausibility easier. Instead of, well, I just saw something randomly on the Discovery Channel and I don't know what I can put here.
We'll return after these messages.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Just taking a commercial break, and we got favorite five from fans host Jamie Ray. How would you handle a shark if it intruded upon your town, and if it was a supernatural creature like the Jaws shark?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, shit. I would, wait, we do curse on here, don't we?
Shit, goddamn.
Yes.
Fuck.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. There you go. All right.
Woo, woo.
There I am. Woo.
Ho, ho.
Oh.
You can say Dingleberry. You can say Booger.
Okay.
There was a great CNN documentary talking about the history of comedy, and they talked about the 5 words you can't say, and 2 of them you were still able to hear now on bleep, like shit and goddamn, I think.
Was that based off of George Carlin's routine?
they were showing his routine, but I thought it was funny how it's like, 2 of those words are now safe to air on cable now.
Exactly. You know, just wait
shit
another
and
10 years.
PG-13.
So I would probably handle it the way that the mayor did at the end of the movie.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. No. Even later than that, just like pay him, and let's get back to business.
Oh, pay all the
Quint,
unofficial heroes.
Yeah.
Have him hire a group of shark hunters. In fact,
right.
If you wanted to do a sequel that was less divisive. Like part 2 is kind of a easy rehash, Roy Scheider's back.
Yeah.
Season 3 is kind of an excuse for 3D effects, and season 4 kind of has the wife under terror with Michael Caine and Mario Van Peebles and their B-listers. If you guys had done a sequel back in the day, where would you have taken the story, do you think?
I think I would put lasers on the freaking shark.
Freaking laser beams. I'd say an Austin Powers reference. Perfect.
I would have made it into a Sharknado. I mean, that's just brilliant.
There you go, man.
Right there.
Sharknado versus Jaws.
Oh my God.
And isn't it funny how they called the shark prop Bruce? And I think they included that in some publicity listings, Bruce the Shark. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not named. Oh, you're talking about the prop. Okay, Bruce the Shark. All right. They're pulling a Star Wars on us where you got to go to this database. It's not shown on screen, but it has a name. Even if it was on screen in the background for 5 seconds. What do you think this stands out of, compared to some of the other creature features of the 70s and 80s?
I think it was just, it is Jaws for a reason. It's a cinematic masterpiece as far as myself goes. I really wanted to have my friend Jennifer join me tonight. She and I did an episode, a very early episode 7 of Fave 5, where we talked about shark movies.
Yeah. Speaking of the devil.
Jennifer is always on the Sharks team. Doesn't matter what, we talked about what movies and whatnot. So we did a rewatch last night, and I texted her and she said, so this is what she wanted to say. This was the perfect moment in the Jaws film, is the moment when the 3 bobbers come up off the bow, and the guys basically have, they're just stunned on their faces, and they can't understand how that shark is still doing what he does. And what she said was, the moment the 3 bobbers come up off the boat, the bow, and the guys have no idea that Jaws is right there watching them. The suspense and foreboding in that one scene is cinematic genius at its best. And I couldn't disagree with her. But I have several parts that I love, and if it's okay, I'd like to share those with you.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, they're in chronological order. One of my first favorites is seeing the Welcome to Amity sign before the graffiti, and then later on
the
after
Amityville horror.
Yeah, exactly. The Amity Island, sorry. Just the fact that they use that as a gauge of where everyone is as far as mentally on that island. I love that. Deputy Hicks, when he finds Chrissy's body, of course, everybody talks about, her getting the nibbles in the beginning, but just the abject look of horror on his face. And he has that whistle in his mouth, and he's just blowing and blowing, and then he just like sits down, and there's that one little and then as soon as they figure out that it's the body, he jumps right to his office, and the deputy's sitting there along with Cassidy, the kid who was drunk the night before running after her. And they both have the same deadpan look on their eyes, and they're both drinking what I guess is like Alka-Seltzer.
Right.
When Polly walks in and she's just like, and they're just sitting there going, it's just that movie is peppered with those things all throughout.
You have time to kind of soak in the details, no pun.
Right.
And I mean, you have the author making a cameo as the reporter, and yes, Chrissy, to have her be played by an actual stunt woman and then even spoof that in Spielberg's 1941. I mean,
who brilliant. She still does cons. A buddy of mine, Patrick, just a couple of weeks ago, met her at a retro con in like North Carolina.
She's one of the dancers in the Great Muppet Caper. She's done all kinds of things.
Yeah. Of course, one of my favorite lines is when Chief Brody is watching the swimmers. The scene is great because every time someone breaks the camera, it switches between the distance between him and the camera. Sometimes it switches the angle a little bit. It's just little things like that you see. But then the a-hole swimmer comes in and sits in front of him. Yeah, we know about you. You don't like the water. And then he gives him that's some bad hat, Harry. Which, I mean, such a good line. It totally prompted its own studio.
We don't
that made an X-Men movie
too much on what we already know. Like, the asshole who wants to get laid with Chrissy,
right?
He already feels at fault because had he not gone out there with her, she never would have been killed by the shark. But we don't need to focus on that. We don't need to hit that home. We already know he's an asshole and he's got to live with that guilt the rest of his life. Any other movie would have made him be just a plot device or just another asshole who's just going to die. And it's like, yeah, but let's move this along instead of just root for. I mean, yes, it's great to root for someone's downfall, but then there's times where they drag it out and it's like, there's just no fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Alex Kittner's death. I mean, I hate to, as much as you say that, but and all the swimmers, how they respond when they just see that chum just rolling up and everybody's freaking out. Another great scene is when Ellen Brody is, shashaying the chief because he's like, get the kids out of the boat. I don't want the kids playing. And, oh, don't be like that. And then she sees the picture in the book. Michael, do you hear your father? Out of the water now. Which is such a mother thing to do,
It's just so nutty. Hey,
so nutty.
Gio, and Robert, you'll love this. And welcome, Ray. By the way, I should introduce you.
Ray.
How you doing? You'll find this nutty.
They say.
Yeah. So you'll find this funny. Susan Backenlinney, who plays Chrissy, the swimmer / stuntwoman / actress. Believe it or not, she trained a bear whose growls were actually later used for the voice of Chewbacca.
Really?
So there's another sci-fi connection.
Interesting.
And we were joking earlier. It's like everything we do kind of connects this to the rest of Spielberg's career, but you could also connect this to every other blockbuster movie if you really try really hard.
Well, there's a huge connection to the 007 franchise. Yeah. Y'all know that?
Stuntman?
No.
Producer?
It's right. It's on screen. So.
Is it because there's a character named Jaws?
Nope. The tiger shark autopsy scene. When he cuts him open and Hooper starts pulling stuff out, and he says, "Yep, I knew he swam up from the Gulf Stream." He pulls that Louisiana license plate and throws it out. The license plate is 007.
Oh,
that is awesome.
Spielberg went not once, but
that's
twice.
why he created Raiders, it's
he went not once but twice to try to get to direct a 007 movie.
Yes,
and they turned him down.
For Your Eyes Only, I think, was the one. It was an 81 movie, and that was the same year Raiders came out. And it's kind of wild how when we look at this and we think Lucas who's doing the second unit directing and assistant camera setups, and Spielberg's the helmsman, and Kasten is doing some of the dialogue, but we also kind of forget about Philip Kaufman, who's done so many noirs and other character studies. So it's just kind of interesting how if we can't connect anything to Indy Jones or Bond, we can always just think of Jaws with creating what you expect every summer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Like not even just creature feature, just like a larger than life movie that's going to have all kinds of divisive or not, I feel is kind of how some of those movies are now. But it's like you're gonna see something that you normally wouldn't even want to see, but here you are now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the obvious connection on this film is John Williams and how this film will not be the film that it is without him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not just him making the music, but him basically fighting and having to prove to Spielberg that he needed the music there, because he played it for him the first time, and Spielberg basically turned to him and said, yeah, that's great, but what's the real music you want to use? And he's like, no, that is what we need
That's
in
the
here.
theme.
Yeah, no. So they had to, Robert, if you know the story, please jump in. But I think they pretty much brought in an audience and showed it to them both ways. And 99% of the people said, oh no, you got to have that music.
Yeah.
And I just applaud him for just using him pretty much all of his career.
Right. Well, and shoot, you get somebody like that who's just a genius.
Not only that, but think about it. If you think about it, back in those times, the importance of soundtrack, original soundtrack for storytelling on a movie was not that imperative. Because I mean, go 30 years back, we just started with motion pictures with images in black and white. Not even too long ago. So by that time, in 75, it's just starting to be introduced the importance of what music and original soundtrack how can revolutionize a movie completely to a different thing.
I can't imagine
you're so right,
not being a thing.
Usually they say that a soundtrack is successful if you don't notice it, but for Jaws, it's more a case of you do notice it, and every time you hear it, you're looking for that shark.
Yeah.
You're walking through a shopping center and you hear that music playing. You're just like, "Where's the shark? Fuck! There's a fountain. Oh, there's a shark."
The music is just as much of a character as the rest of the characters in the movie. They are. It is the music.
Without this movie, the music, there's really not even a movie. Yeah.
It makes me wonder if this is something that John Williams came up with when he was filming this film, because this is something that he uses in every film. And just to give you a random example there, in the Star Wars saga, every character has their score.
They have their own theme.
You hear the score, you know that person. You know that where it belongs to.
That's why I like playing those Star Wars games, because you would even hear more of the uncut score that usually you'd have dialogue talking over, or you hear quarter of it, but you don't hear the full thing until like sequel number 1 or 5.
So I always wonder if this is something that, everybody was new when this film came out. This is like a pioneer film. And I always wondered about that, if John Williams figured that out during this filming and move it over to the Star Wars franchise. And basically everything else is done after.
Yeah, Superman, Oliver Stone stuff like JFK and Born on the 4th of July. I can't imagine. I mean, I used to have a collection of Williams' best themes for all his stuff, which includes, it was a more recent CD set, and it also included his Olympics and Academy Awards scores also. And I think you just wouldn't have gotten that darker, let alone intense vibe that he's so vibrant with.
Yeah. Very true.
Would you show Jaws at a theme park?
Oh yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering. Some people might be like, too much.
It was a Disney. It was a Disney Florida.
Yes, there is. Yeah, I did not go on that ride. I was like, that thing is gonna kill me.
Do you guys remember the scene in Back to the Future Part 2 where he's gone to the future?
Yeah, the hologram
27 plane. Yeah, and the holographic shark.
I think that was the only note Steven gave. Was like, you got to reference me. You can do anything else you want. You got to reference me.
I got to go on the ride at Universal back in the day, and that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I missed it. I actually, when the first time I went to Universal, they didn't have that ride anymore.
Yeah, I think they have it there still. I know I heard from friends and family that they recently brought back the Waterworld ride, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to do all other kinds of fun, epic flashbacks instead of just do the Shrek one or the.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did anybody see Matt Hooper's appearance in Piranha 3D?
Richard Dreyfuss.
No, I mean Matt Hooper.
Matt Hooper. Okay, wow.
Yes.
I forgot he was in that.
If you ever see Piranha 3D, at the beginning, you see Richard Dreyfuss in a watch command, a watch hat and a blue jeans shirt and stuff, just fishing.
Yeah.
And he's singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home." Okay, drinking beer, and basically an underwater seismic event happens and cracks open a dome, and all of the water swirls around and falls into this dome. And of course, there's like prehistoric piranha in there. And so he looks like Matt Hooper with the glasses and everything, but it's just him. So, so later on, the police are looking for him, and they said, yeah, Miss Hooper called last night. Matt never came home. And so it's in there that it's Matt Hooper. I love that.
I'm not that type of person that like those kind of films. I can't remember exactly why I watched it, or I know it was with a group of friends. And I remember the experience that I took from that was questioning myself. Why was it that it was so scary? If that might not be the right word, when I didn't see anything, I had an impact because
the mind has no limit to its imagination unless you set the limit.
Exactly. I mean, my heart was going. I'm sure it's over like 120 bits per second there, but per minute. But it was just like, this is incredible. This is how impactful this film is. That with storytelling and with visuals, they can get you to see in your mind things that are not there and make you believe it.
Yep. They're doing something right.
That's right. So did y'all talk about the Lady of the Dunes?
Oh, no, we didn't. We should.
Okay. Are you guys familiar? Cam, you piped up, but I mean, you pepped up there, but have you other guys heard the rest of this story?
Let's talk more about that. That's a great segment.
Yeah. Do you want to lead us off, or?
No. You know more about this. I got another story, but it's a little more obscure.
So basically, the Ladies of the Dunes murder victim, it's been 48 years
back in 74, and this would have been
in 74 in July of 26th. They found a dismembered body in Provincetown, Massachusetts, and basically it went unsolved for years and years and years. I won't go into all the gory details, but basically they found a blue bandana and a pair of blue jeans folded up on where her head was, and they started thinking, okay, well, maybe this was a transient or somebody moving on. But somehow Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, got into part of the story.
No, that I did not know that part. That's
yes, yeah, this is the big thing. A few years ago, I believe he was on a podcast or something, and they were talking about it, and he started digging into it. And the woman who did all of the extras and the casting had passed away, and the records weren't really that great, and they couldn't find them. So they were pretty sure they found a woman named Ruth Marie, who looked a lot like as an extra, and she was wearing a blue bandana and blue jeans. And so they kind of started to piece together, they thought. But according to last year, they have now discovered who she is.
Oh, cool.
And they don't know for sure that this is the same girl. But the FBI put out that, they say, Carl Gottlieb, the screenwriter, talked about the fact that this was a scene where this girl Ruth would have been in was in May. So just like a few months afterwards, they found the body, and with the decomposition, they thought, man, this has got to be her. But Yeah, they did. Like I said, they came out and tried to identify her with some remains and some DNA, and they think now that her name is Chrissy Watkins, but they can't tell for sure somehow. And so the story is still up and out there. But yeah, Stephen King's son came across the story and started doing some digging. And anyway, interesting story, weird.
Did you know that the two pranksters kids, they're basically like featured extras? One of them actually became a deputy.
No, really?
And he served.
Is that the one who was breaking the fences?
I think so. And
or the ones with the shark fin swimming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he became basically a deputy at the same town where they filmed it.
That's cool.
And I think they actually did call him in for an actual shark sighting. So wow. History imitates art. I was hearing it on some other podcast where they're talking trivia. I'm like, that's amazing.
Well, I mean, so many of those people were from Martha's Vineyard. It doesn't surprise me. Do you remember that scene where all the fishermen are taking all their boats and they're starting to get together to cast off to go after the shark, and the harbor master walks out, and he's got like, I don't know, like milk and eggs and sugar, and he just kind of looks around. That guy, his real name was Donald Poole. He lived to be 94 years old and served on the council there for like 45 years. No speaking, no role. No lines. He just walks out and just has this long pipe and the skipper hat, you know.
Man, anyway. It's lovely.
Did y'all talk about the Indianapolis story?
Okay.
So that's the story that Robert Shaw, is when they're trading scars, and he has the scar that's been removed. And he talks about the USS Indianapolis that delivered the bombs for Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that scene?
Yes.
Yes. So that was amazing. But, Shaw had a big drinking problem. And they tried to film that scene a couple of times, and he was just tearing it up. So the next day, he came in, quote unquote, cold sober, and did it in one take, and then went back to drinking. But that is a gruesome story in itself.
It is, but I think the fact that so many people just, like, the actors were dedicated, a method almost, is kind of living it as they were doing it. I think that says a lot about keeping the focus.
I think the pacing was amazing too. Like this whole, calm scene is before the shark attacks the next time. And so it's all fresh in our mind what can happen when people go into the water and there's sharks in the water, or a big shark. So it's kind of like putting it in your head. Oh man, what are these guys going to go through if they ever get, and then boom, they're in the water with them.
And think of any other movie that, they'll film something on location, but there's still going to be some reshoots that are a closed off studio for one shot or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine filming something on an actual water now?
No.
I don't think anyone's going to make time for it. It's like,
no,
we can just do it on a green screen. Or they can do Mandalorian, which, don't get me wrong, that works well, but we're kind of going into more video game kind of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, I don't mean that it's based on a game. I just mean it's creating a virtual world, and really all you got to focus on now is the makeup, other parts of the set design and props.
Yeah, you don't even have to shave a mustache off. They take it out in post-production now.
There you go. Pull a Superman.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I do think there are still a lot of good filmmakers who are doing stuff, in real life.
You just got to find the right ones.
Yeah.
Finally, some YouTubers and TV commercial guys are actually getting creative instead of being too robotic.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look at, for instance, like Mystery Men. That was a failure of the box office and mixed bag, but it was a cult hit for the rest of us. But
yes,
it's amazing that it even went anywhere, because the director never worked again. He was known for the Taco Bell ads, and the cast hated working with each other, but acknowledge it now because it's taken on a life of its own. I had no idea because it was on TV all the time. I figured, yeah, everyone kind of knows that one. Wasn't it a hit? It's like, no, it wasn't a hit at all, actually. But
yeah,
I feel like because the landscape has changed so much, and I think less people are producers are now trying to look for someone who still has a vision, even though they can work cheaper. I hope we're getting to that point where we can still look for new blood instead of just, well, they can do it, but not necessarily better.
It seems we're doing that with directors and screenwriters, but we're really not doing it that much with
they did it
actors.
With the guy who did Kong Skull Island. He had done like a bunch of Microsoft ads and Super Bowl promos, so I'm hoping he can skyrocket his career.
Yeah, I just see the same faces in all of the movies.
And I mean, the guy who directed part 2, he had done a bunch of stuff for like Universal TV.
I liked it too. Yeah.
It's pretty sound. I was rewatching, I think, a few years ago, and it was like, I'm not sure if this will work. I'm like, no, this actually gets the job done.
I mean, it's not that unbelievable to think, that a mother would show up for her kid or vice versa. But yeah, once it follows him down to Jamaica, it was
I just found a calculator. It's not, I'm sure it's not that exact, but it gives us an idea. 9 million 75 money would adjust to around 50 million in today's money, which is it's still just change.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, they got their money back from that movie for sure.
You got that change? If you got that change laying around somewhere, Robert, let me know.
You're gonna have to go over to his place and look at between the couch cushions.
That's what I'm telling him. That's what I'm telling him to let me know.
Down there,
That's what I'm telling him to let me know. I know where he lives. I know where you live. You just gotta let me know if you have it. You don't have to tell me where.
Do you think Spielberg regrets not getting extra money from the awful sequels?
Yeah. They say,
I don't know.
He could have made some, because you can always take, you can always cash out, or sell out and then make something you actually want to do. I mean, you hear John Cusack and Ethan Hawke talk about that once in a while. They'll suck up and do a movie they don't want to do. They do 2 movies they don't want to do 2 movies they do want to do every other year.
Yeah. I heard Michael Caine never watched Jaws.
Yeah, he
3
just
or
did
4.
4, and he just did the famous it bought a great mansion line.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with Pamela Voorhees for the first Friday the 13th. She needed a car.
Yeah. What's her name? Yeah, who played Debbie? Yeah, it just was like, yep, I had to do what I had to do.
That's it. It's a good franchise. I'm ready for number 5. I wonder what it would be. Not a reboot, but
I mean, we'd had Cruel Jaws, the amusing Italian knockoff.
God. That's so bad.
Yeah.
No, I will watch anything. Is it Tisa Farrow who's in it? Or is it the guy from all of the Fulci movies? It's like, there's only 5 actors in it.
I think it was the one guy who's done all Bruno Mattei, who's done all other sorts of just kooky. I mean, he's much like Fulci. It's like pretty much when you look at Italian filmmakers who are not Dario Argento, they all have the same thing, which is do an Indiana Jones knockoff, do an Escape from New York knockoff, do a Conan the Barbarian cash in, do some softcore hardcore porn, and then do some giallo mystery or supernatural terror movie.
It's like a bingo card.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a total bingo. Pass the, spin the bottle, flip the flash card around. Yeah.
Hey, how about this? Would anybody here be interested in a Jaws, kind of like
show?
Not TV show, but let's say
Scully and Mulder investigate shark crimes every day of the week
in anime format?
The sharks are out there. Sorry, go ahead.
Anime.
An anime.
Just a movie, not a show.
Would it be like the Halo or Animatrix, where you do like an anthology of people connected to the shark crimes?
No, like a true anime, like hiring, Japanese.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, but make it be an anime anthology, or
just this full story, an hour movie, just the movie. Like,
so the same script.
Maybe that could. You know what? That's a good idea. The same script. I was thinking about maybe.
I'd like a little expansion at least.
So what Robert is suggesting more like an adaptation to anime.
If they can make it like the Godzilla Netflix anime, but a little more juicy, I might be open to this. But like, make it be like a 10-parter.
Or it's in black and white, except for the blood.
Ooh.
He say, I might be up to this. Like we're talking about.
There you go. Here. So we pull a Schindler's List where it's all in black and white, but only the blood and the
Sin City
items are in red.
You can make juicy anime. There's one airing a second season right now called Goblin Slayer. And if either of my two co-hosts have seen it, I'd expect Robert hasn't seen it because it's brutal.
Nope.
Gio's probably seen it though. But yeah, Gobbo Slayer is pretty damn brutal. I mean, it's not just the goblins that get killed; the people get hacked up and eaten by the goblins and stuff as well. So, but you can make pretty bloody animes if you really want.
Kind of way I want it to be, kind of almost an anthology, like have a series of sharks that breed from like this place. It doesn't have to be mutated or anything, but just, I don't know, like they show a montage where they're preying on people, they're getting bigger, stronger than even preying on other sharks. And then like you could have almost like what the ideas kind of were with Deep Blue Sea or Jaws Free, but like one of them attacks Japan, one of them attacks Brazil, one of them attacks Sweden, another attacks various American cities.
That sounds like a shark governmental campaign, like taking over the world one bite at a time.
Exactly, bite of the. He's the talk of the town.
I think most sharks would have difficulty in Sweden, and not because of the fjords, because of how cold it is.
Nice.
I guess I can answer first. I think the style for me, what is that? And I completely forgot the name now. Gio, what is that anime that you had me watch and I refuse after?
Demon Slayer?
Yeah, that style. Demon Slayer?
Demon Slayer is nice because it's colorful and splattery. That's not a bad choice.
Splattery. I like that word.
Nice.
So that would be my answer for that question. I think
just about any anime with the word Slayer in the title probably fits the film pretty well.
Slayer, and the actual Slayer music plays over the soundtrack.
I mentioned Berserker, and I think that would be a great animation style too, because Berserker revolves like there's something primitive about sharks, you know. There's no technology or anything. It's just men as fishermen against nature, and I will pick that too because I mean, one bite of a shark or something, just a freaking splatter of blood, guts flying around, and yes, anime can be a very good medium for you to actually go realistic or even go further down the road if you like when it comes to these things.
Okay,
I
got a question. This is a question my daughter always poses. Okay, so you take Jaws,
ice cream.
And everybody in the movie becomes a Muppet, except for one person.
Oh my god! And we're gonna have okay. So Gonzo is gonna be the scientist Dreyfus plays. Kermit, I feel, should be the stupid mayor. I'm not sure on who should be Sheriff Brody, but Fozzie Bear by far is gonna give the speech as Robert Shaw's character.
See, I was thinking Sam the Eagle as Captain Quint.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, I think he should be the sheriff. He's like, "You all are morons." Doing his usual line. Oh, and
of course, Piggy is Ellen. Brody.
Miss Piggy will be the first victim because so there you go. So Kermit can be I missed out on some serious bacon. And I had someone I wanted to pork. And we could have the critics, Walter and what's his face, they could be talking shit while people are getting slaughtered. Oh, 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 we told you not to go in the water. Oh, oh, oh. Sorry.
See, I was thinking that they would both be Harrys of some sort, sit in front of the chief.
Oh, there you go.
You know,
I'll deal with that. Who do you think should be the hunter who gets the shark that's not the right one?
Who's the guy that throws the exploding fish?
Oh my god. How about Animal and Honeydew and I don't know.
Mr. Teeth.
Yeah, Dr. Teeth. That's
Dr.
it.
Teeth.
Dr. Teeth. So who would stay human? One person has to stay human.
I would have thought Richard Dreyfuss should stay human.
Okay. Defend
maybe
it.
Sheriff Brody, because I'd like to see him do some comedy.
Well, he looks like a Muppet in this movie, so
maybe
you just couldn't tell.
We could change it up a bit where he's
halfway up the stairs.
Maybe one of the Muppets can be his deputy, and he's still the sheriff, and he's just along for the ride. Because
Quint, there'd be some great scenes if Quint was the human, and everybody else around him was Muppets.
Yeah,
I love it. Either way, you can't lose with this because you're gonna just go till it hurts. Like my sides would probably be killing me. Like the many times I grew up watching Treasure Island.
I mean, I was gonna say they've done Treasure Island, they've done Muppet Carols, they've done. I think Jaws is next. I mean,
Jaws
we really should fight for that. You know?
God.
Yeah,
I love this.
Petition.
I will fund either of you guys said. Yeah, I will totally fund an anime. I will totally fund. This is amazing.
But you could have a Muppet play the shark as well. You know that really big Muppet, the massive one that's like
the tall guy that's like the he sweeps up and stuff.
9 foot tall with the massive head.
Big Bird?
No,
not Big Bird.
That's
yeah, you're talking about the one with the giant ass lips. He looks like Animal, but giant.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
Yeah. But he's huge.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Muppet character.
Yeah. He could be the shark.
I love how this took a twist. It's not Telly. That's Sesame Street. Okay, it's Sweetums. Yeah,
Sweetums. Okay, look at you. Thank you, Google. You know, you'd look a lot smarter if we couldn't see the reflection in your glasses. I'm just saying.
Sweetums is the gay character I write in every movie. Or the prostitute you write in a vigilante thriller for Roger Corman. I don't know. I love how we just added to the fun B movie mythology, because like Jaws is like a total like B movie love letter and like the most mainstream B picture, just showing. Because, like, you look at all the Jaws knockoffs, and some of them are fun and some of them are bad, but they're kind of at the same time. They're just reminding you how Jaws had more time, money, effort, style.
But Corman doesn't need any of that.
Right. And so Corman is his own special thing, but then you see the other knockoffs and how the Italian ones vary, and you're like, well, I think overall, I mean, I think if you just, like we were saying before, if you touch any part of this, for the most part, it's probably going to become garbanzo beans.
So you're telling me that there are Italian knockoffs of Jaws?
Yes.
Does that make it seafood carbonara?
Oh.
Well, I mean, it makes it very fishy, that is for sure. But
that was deep. See,
that was deep. That was so deep. We got another visitor. The one, the only rising filmmaker, Rick Ives. Here on the show.
Thank you, man. What an intro. Thanks. Rising filmmaker. One and only. Yeah, I guess technically that's true.
You've done it all. Yeah, you've been at work in the visual effects and rendering and editing department, and again, Solid Rock Trust has been trending on streaming, so that's been cool. But altogether, what makes you click? What makes you get up first thing in the morning, ready to kick ass?
Oh, dude, good question. I just love movies. Ever since I was a kid, love movies. And when I told my parents I wanted to go to college to learn how to get an art degree and do that kind of thing, they weren't really sure that was a track that could even be a career, but turns out it is. So thankfully, let's see, I've worked on a ton of Marvel stuff in the last few years. So like all the Disney Plus shows. I've worked on a Star Wars project. I've worked on Academy Award winning stuff.
One of James Cameron's underwater documentaries.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of 3D stuff, and it's just so exciting to be able to work on big things that even my parents watch in theaters. Friends from high school still watch. And if the question is what gets you out of bed in the day, that's it. Like just being excited to work on big things, and so proud when they come out. And man, just pinch myself all the time.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So for this segment, so many people want to talk about Jaws, because how can you not? Jaws rules. But
and I'm the one that got to, suckers. So listen up.
It's so much fun just doing these multiple segments and stitching them together. When Jaws gets brought up in conversation or just in a random movie group chat, what jumps into your mind first thing?
Yeah, good question, dude. Jaws is such a strange franchise. It's not like, especially for the time, right? Because you have a lot of franchises that are horror franchise that have super fans that eat it all up and they know every little bit about it, right? But Jaws is different because it's like real mainstream franchise that I have to assume people weren't watching over and over and over again on tape yet, right? Because of the time it came out.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would like to even just ask people out of the blue because I'm sure many of them, maybe not for 5 more years, but
here's my theory why is because all these movies like retread themselves over and over, right? And the timeline between them all makes no sense. The continuity between any of them makes no sense. And yet they're all supposed to fit together because they keep wanting to remind you of the first one because the first one is so good. And then the second one is not quite there. The third one is really bad. The fourth one is an abomination, but so fun to watch anyways. And they just keep trying to cash in on, but remember the first Jaws, how great it was. In fact, even in the fourth one, they're like flashing back to the first one, to events that none of these characters were at. They have memories of, but they know you were there. And I have to imagine it's because
I was there when the towers fell.
Yeah. I have to imagine it's because people go to the theater and they don't really remember it that well.
Interesting.
Just enough that they want to go see another shark movie,
I would hope back in the day, before waiting for a Sunday night CBS TV movie was a thing, that back in the day they would have wanted to go see it multiple times in theaters.
Yeah, but I wasn't alive, so I don't know. Maybe it like came back to theaters once in a while.
We had Jamie Ray on, and he said he saw it in the drive-in with his parents, but I don't think multiple times. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was a big thing once it hit the movie channels back in the day.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just a weird time. Love that it got made fun of in Back to the Future, and then went on to like do the exact thing, like jump the shark.
Yeah, literally jumped the shark. Before we were nuking the fridges, we jumped the shark.
When do we get into our favorite scenes?
Now.
Okay, because one of my favorite scenes is when Mandy Moore is trapped in the cage at the bottom of the ocean.
That's 47 meters down.
Oh, sorry. Oh, so sorry about that.
You dusted me.
Okay, next favorite scene. Sam Jackson gives this incredible speech, and shark jumps out of the water and eats his head off.
We're talking about Jaws 3, surely. Oh no, we're talking about the movie that references Jaws 3, Deep Blue Sea.
Let's see. You probably talked about all the ones in Jaws 1 already, right?
No, I'm sure there's something.
Oh, okay. Opening scene, classic, right? You see this. No, you see this. You see this as a kid, and you're like, "Oh, is she naked? Is she naked? Am I gonna see something in there?"
Naked.
But you can't because it's really shadowy. This is rated PG. It's real safe. But man, that's scary to see her like
Celebrity
get
Movie
thrashed
Archive
around.
shows something. All right.
Oh, really? I haven't checked that. But it's still super scary to see her get thrown around like that. I don't know if we've seen that in a movie before that time, right?
Good question. I'm sure there's a Video Nasty or slasher out there somewhere that's more graphic, but I'm sure Dario Argento has done way more colorful.
Yeah, you might be right. Just the thing that Jaws is really good at though is coming up with imagery that you don't really see the violence a lot of times.
We did note that but it's awesome too. It just shows how your mind goes places you don't want it to go. I mean, I have to be careful with what I watch with family. They, whenever we watch any of these gangster or cops and robbers shows, there'll be moments where they're like, he just got stabbed in the neck. I'm like, no, come on. That's your mind. He's clearly holding a knife up to his or her neck.
Right.
But some people get more sensitive and just impose.
Because a lot of it is the sound or the music.
I think a lot. It half the time it seems to even be an edit. Like it's just the Foley. I think really unnerves people.
Right.
I accuse one of my family members is always emotionally losing it anytime there's piano. They don't believe me, but without fail, snap your fingers if there's piano. Doom, doom, doom. They start tearing up. I'm like, hey, it's okay. It's okay.
Primed.
Let it out. It's beautiful.
They've been trained. That's funny.
I'm not gonna cry.
Did you guys talk about the kid copying Brody scene? Classic.
Not as much as we would like to. I'm down to hear your take on that.
I don't know. Here's the deal. I don't know what that scene is doing in this movie because it's too good for a shark movie. You know what I mean? Like this is what makes Jaws. But this is what makes Jaws special because like a lesser director would have just cut that. But we leave it in. It's so great.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to give life to the town. But much like I noted how the stupid boyfriend who's trying to get laid with the first victim is no longer focused on because it's not his story.
Right.
Any other filmmaker would have elongated him, made him be a whiny, soapy plot device.
Yeah,
and
good
been
point.
like, I don't want to follow this asshole. I know he's a shitbag. I want to follow them hunting the shark.
Right. Good point.
And I think that in a lesser filmmaker, they would have had it go on and felt like a extended college humor skit back in the day. I think he just wanted to show, hey, there's some pranksters and other people spreading. Basically, you can infer it without feeling like it's a hack job or a pointless scene. It's like, yeah, no, they're just pretty much shit talking, going bananas in the town, and kids will be kids. Just like they got squirt guns and everything out, and this thing they got toy sharks and pranks on people causing
that brings me to my next favorite one. Is that scene, but when you see the shark like underneath the guy, kind of sideways. You know the part I'm talking about?
Oh, it's so creepy.
Okay, so this is I think the scariest scene in all of the Jaws franchise. Just that shot right there terrified me as a kid.
It's definitely creepy.
You just see the outline and then he gets tugged under and oh man, it's so big and they're so close to the kids. Yeah. That does it for me. Do you have a favorite scariest scene in all these?
It's definitely when the head floats to the surface.
Oh yeah.
When
Okay.
they're doing the underwater dive, you think the whole time one of them is going to get picked off by the shark. It's like, nope, the shark's waiting for them at sea.
Got it. Yeah, good one.
That moment, I'm not sure who's screaming more, Richard Dreyfuss in that scene or us, the audience.
Right.
We talked about the hunters. We talked about the music. I just love how, again, Lorraine Gray is so wonderful as Mrs. Brody because anyone else, she pretty much gives him a stern, you get back here, as opposed to a please don't go, no damsel talk, no.
Yeah.
Any other filmmaker would have just hired their girlfriend or girlfriend to play the female lead, or just made sure she looked busty as opposed to much of an actress. But yeah, this wasn't like how you see with some filmmakers, like Clint Eastwood does with his girlfriend at the time, Sandra Loke, where it's just like, okay, I know you're.
Or Michael Bay. Oh geez.
Yeah, Michael Bay, or
total objectification.
Right. Every other filmmaker who wants to unintentionally exploit their
that's a good point.
Actors.
She definitely looks like a mom, and she's not a pushover. She's like serious business. Okay, so what's your thoughts on her character then for the whole series?
I
feel like they
surprisingly. I'm glad you brought that up. I would argue she's like the only thing the sequels got right. Like part 2 is a like it or hate it, follow up. Part 3 is kind of a trashy, amusing movie, and part 4 is often, considered unwatchable. But it seemed like they understood her character and where her journey would go, and she was still dedicated to doing a good job. It just was one of those. It's just the material was just beneath everybody.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair. That's a fair point. I didn't have any notes from her on all this stuff.
Because it's not like with Death Wish where you're seeing Charles Bronson getting even more and more tired and disinterested.
Like he cares less and less.
It's not like Dirty Harry where they're coming up with even lamer serial killers and mad bombers and gunman for him to off. It's not even like James Bond where the actor just wants to hang it up, but is being outacted by a very hammy Shakespearean actor who doesn't take the material as serious as him.
Yeah. Good point. Jaws 2 is the one that's just over into like cartoon territory for me. Like just a little bit not believable, but
surprised
still
they didn't do a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Still fun enough that I'm like having a good time. Like when a shark eats a helicopter, I'm like, okay, come on. But I kind of like it.
Oh, fair enough.
He pulls down that whole helicopter. That's great. What's the woman who dumps gas on herself by accident? She's trying to dump gas on the shark,
her name.
and then lights the flare, and then lights herself on fire. Oh, jeez.
Forgot about that.
Some goofy music to play during that one because that's out of control. Okay, what do you think? Is this a different shark? You have an opinion on this?
Oh, they totally are.
Different shark or same shark?
They got to be because it wouldn't make sense for him to come back to life, but they're definitely from the same hive. I think you can imply.
Okay, I got you. When I was a kid, I always thought it was the same shark.
Yeah, it regenerated like Jason.
Well, I thought maybe the explosion wasn't that bad and like he's lived through it somehow. Or
I don't know, man. I saw a bunch of chunky pieces fly at the camera.
Yeah, me too. Jaws 3 is a fun watch, but it is bananas, right?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Okay, real quick, let me go over the timeline for you. 1975, the oldest brother is Michael Brody. He's 13 years old. Sean is 6 years old. In Jaws number 1. Got it?
Kind of. Sort of. Yeah.
Jaws Part 2, 1978, takes place 3 years later. Michael Brody's 17. He's in the movie as a teenager, right? Got a new actor playing him. Not that anyone would notice.
Math are hard.
Watch this on TV.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
1983.
Where I was very, very confused when I resaw him a few years back. I was like, wait,
yeah,
he's related?
Wait, that's, what? Oh, okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
All right, Part 3, 1983, takes place 5 years after Part 2. Michael Brody is now 22. He's being played by Dennis Quaid, yes?
Yeah, who was high as a kite when making the movie.
He's the freaking lead engineer at SeaWorld at age 22. How does that happen? Did he go get a master's degree in college in the last 2 years? And now he's in charge of this whole park? Come on. The 22-year-olds are the ones water skiing out there, standing on each other's shoulders, not in charge of the whole park. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Okay. And Sean, the little brother, should be 14 years old at this time. And he's like skinny dipping with Leah Thompson. No way. It doesn't make any sense. How did they even fit this into the canon of Jaws, the Jaws canon?
Yeah.
Part 4, I'm going to skip ahead. 1987 takes place 4 years later. Michael Brody's now 26 years old. He's married. He has a 5-year-old child who must have been alive in Part 3 because that was only 4 years ago. He had a girlfriend in Part 3, different than his wife. It's almost like they wanted to pretend Part 3 never existed, like it didn't happen. Which I guess I could buy that. But then why am I watching Jaws 3? Okay, anyways.
Yeah, it just shows you how much the writers cared.
It's because I think that there were no fans who were sitting around like trying to figure out, the continuity of how all these work. It was just people with money saying, we need to make another Jaws movie. Okay, Jaws 3, famously, is a 3D movie. I don't know if you noticed that. Cam, did you know that this was 3D?
Yeah, yes, I did. I do remember that.
Could you tell because of all the arms slowly floating into the screen or fish heads?
Plus, I mean, much like many of these effects, anytime they throw it at you towards the screen, that's like the oldest trick in the book for 3D.
So slowly, too. It's like, hey, look at this.
It's not. And I think the biggest problem is it doesn't move the story along. It just
not at all. Not at all. Part of me is sad that I'm never going to watch this in 3D because I wonder what it's like.
Yeah, it's more trouble than it's worth. It's kind of one of those where it's like you want to get high, but the drugs are too expensive and they don't set in fast enough. So it's like,
it's just not all you
time suck.
It's not all you imagine it would be.
It's like going through, I don't know, a 20 season show, but it doesn't take off until 3 seasons in. You're like, yeah, no, too much trouble.
Yeah, right.
I have to really like these characters, or I've seen clips of it before to really.
This SeaWorld place. Okay, I know there's clearly no actual care for marine life at the SeaWorld. It's like way over ocean standards.
Yeah, the safety standards are out of the wazoo on this.
That being said, I really, really want to visit this place. It seems so crazy, right? Like water skiing like we don't have anymore, underwater tunnels, underwater dinner. Man, it's just crazy. It's like
never
American
got a dinner.
Excess. It's just the best. And I wish I could go there to just visit it for us. I want to know how much this place costs. They're paying so many people. Man.
Question.
Okay. Leah Thompson, great in this movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Cute.
I'm totally in love with her. Love her scene on the beach where they like steal away and go swimming together. Love it.
Maybe this connects the Back to the Future verse.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in that movie too. She gets bit in the leg, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I recall her.
And disappears from this movie. She lives, but she disappears, and it makes me so sad. Like, man, you got to keep her in the movie. One of the best parts.
Yeah, and Louis Gossett Jr. is kind of trying to really add some emphasis on his administrative character, but he's not really well utilized like he and Quaid are in Enemy Mine the following year.
Yeah, good point. Okay, for some reason, I have this memory of the baby shark always like really scared me. I know it's a puppet, but it was so like disturbing to me.
Really?
You have that same experience? I remember the eyes being so like, I don't know, dead.
I mean, it can vary. There are some practical effects that are very creepy. I found, the original Alien and Terminator real creepy growing up. It's still very effective. It's just
something about it not being alive. It was just weird. The big finish to this movie is the shark swimming super slow towards the screen,
right
into a glass window. Did you guys talk about that?
We did not. So I feel like Jim Wynorski and some of these other schlock filmmakers working for Roger Corman get some inspiration watching this one.
It's like the scene in Austin Powers when he's like screaming at him to stop, and he's coming so slowly.
Oh yeah, the cement truck. Yeah,
everyone's just watching it come, and they're all like, "No, what are you doing? Get out! What are you doing? Get out of there!" Makes no sense. Love it.
Sense. What sense?
Favorite ending to all the Jaws movies is when Dennis Quaid and his girl are swimming and the dolphins jump up midair and freeze frame. Classic 80s finish, freeze frame in the air, except this time it's dolphins.
And then some weird 80s theme starts playing. Beep, beep,
That's exactly what happens. Fade off into the sunset. Okay, you got a favorite Jaws 3 moment?
I love how Louis Gossett Jr. is trying to calm everyone down at a meeting and failing to do so properly. It's like, calm down, everyone, calm down. We got this under control.
It's not under control, guys. No.
You're not buying what I'm selling. Oh, fuck. I better go and start swimming in there with Dennis. Something I don't think anyone would have in their contract. I think in real life, they would be like, I'm out. I'm stepping down. You can handle my mess.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Are we on to Jaws 4 real quick? This is going to be a fast one. So many flashbacks in this just feel desperate because they just are desperate to remind you of the first movie, how great it was. Always blew my mind that people are having memories of events they weren't there for. They even do like the little kid copying scene over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's better the first time, guys.
Yeah.
Let's see. The shark follows them to the Bahamas. I could never get over that.
How about the
Does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm sure no one knows how to do math. Another offender. It kind of reminds me of what's the one? That one TV show, Ray Donovan, where everyone's going back and forth between LA and New York like it's nothing, and you're like, it takes way longer to get there.
But imagine an animal swimming all the way down the coast and still finding you in the Bahamas. Because it smells their blood or something. My favorite maybe scene of this whole movie is the banana boat.
I totally forgot about that. I even forgot that Karen Young from young Karen Young from The Sopranos, the blonde FBI gal, is also in here as one of the kids.
Oh, is one of the kids? I didn't realize that. I feel like these banana boat things aren't really around anymore. And I have to believe it's because of this movie.
It's so weird, though, that they mentioned that Brody has died of a heart attack. It's just like...
Well, because they couldn't get him back. No way.
I know, but what a random cop-out. I'll excuse Alien Free, but when you just have our beloved hero, it's just like, why even mention him at all? I would have rather just assumed he had moved away, retired, and they divorced. Something.
I bet you she needed a reason to move on because she's fallen in love with somebody else. So yeah, I guess they would have to divorce. But then it ruins. You know what? A lot of this movie ruins the first movie.
It really does.
Such a shame. I guarantee you he got paid for this though, because he's in it so much. He's almost a side character.
Right?
They keep showing his face. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Banana boats don't exist anymore because of this movie. I'm sure of it. I love when Michael Caine. You think he dies the first time? He's like standing on the wing of the plane in the water.
Yeah.
And he's shouting at something, and then the shark pops up. And he's like, "Oh shit!" He just disappears. I'm like, "Oh, there he goes. He's gone." No, he's not. He's okay. Actually, everyone makes it out of this movie, except for little Sean. He's dead early. Does the shark roar in the other movies?
Absolutely roars.
Okay, man, I couldn't remember that. I noticed it on this one, and I thought, is that shark roaring? Do sharks do that? I don't think they do. But I will say, the wide shots of the shark like popping. Okay, he has this thing where he's like flashing EMPs at it or something, right, to disturb it. And every time he does that, the shark is like swimming closer to them, but it's a really, really wide shot. And the shark is kind of tiny out in the water. And every time he pops up, it is kind of scary, that image to me. Like it's just getting closer and closer and closer. The size of that, maybe just get a good sense of how big it is. But that image is kind of like memorable for me. Oh, yeah. And then I put Jake. I can't believe he lives. He's alive through this. Even when they're saving him after the shark's dead.
I love how
so much blood around him. Like, dude, can't be awake right now.
Yeah. The Independent apparently noted Michael Small, the composer, and said he produced a fine score in the circumstances, as if anyone noticed.
Nice. Good line. Okay, you got a Jaws for a moment, or are we done?
I think we have jumped the shark. I think you have summed up.
My last favorite. Oh shoot, I forgot my favorite other scene was when there's a tornado and the sharks all get picked up and dropped on Los Angeles. Which one was that? That's Sharknado. Come on, Sharknado.
Sorry. Okay, you'll find this interesting. The Jaws 4 novelization implies that there's a lot of voodoo directing the shark to do all this revenge.
Oh, geez.
Can you imagine had they actually hit home on that more? That's like Chucky level, you know?
Yeah. I guess that's the route you go. Yeah. Do you make the shark like almost magical, or do you make it sci-fi? You get up to 19.
However, a journalist reviewing it called it a fast-moving and vivid read, rating it higher than the actual movie. While another critic was not so pleased by it, the Miami Herald called it the literary equivalent of a sausage.
Ouch. How many Jaws books were there? Do we know that?
I think just those 4.
Just the one.
The first movie was based on the book of the same name, and then they adapted novelizations of the sequels. You know?
Oh, I see.
No Benchley or Spielberg connection. And I've checked numerous times. I'm like, surely Spielberg went to set a few times to offer suggestions. Like, nope. Just probably the only franchise he wanted nothing to do with. He was helping out.
He was just cashing checks as an exec producer.
Yeah. Probably going to the Animaniacs set, but not wanting anything to do with that other Universal venture.
Yeah, good point. He didn't really turn his back on anything else quite so bad, did he?
You can't think of anything else. Yeah. And I think because the experience hardened him so much, why would you want to revisit that? You know?
Yeah.
Days of cameras and Rinse from The Claw's Corner.
Yes.
Enters in on his segment, talking nothing but Bruce the Shark.
Thank you very much for having me once again on your show. I love the show because you talk about so many interesting topics. I love all the movies that you discuss. So glad you picked me for Jaws because I don't know if you know my history of watching this movie when it came out in June of 1975.
It made you.
Oh, yeah. I was 7 years old when it came out. And my father, I used to keep track of all the movies I've ever seen when I was little. And I remember we saw Jaws, my family and I, 17 times in the theater that year.
Yeah.
I remember going to the drive-in.
I knew you saw it a bunch. I didn't know it was that many.
I have a document, and it's funny because I actually found it. The book somewhere, a little binder. When I was moving, I was like, "Oh my god, I still have this!" And it said like June 30th, 1975. Rich saw Jaws with mommy, daddy. It's hilarious. So, but it's funny because I saw the movie, and then over the years, I met the cast. Had one of them on my show.
All very nice people.
Also have some other ones on the show. So it's great actually meeting the people that I grew up watching. But that movie had a profound impact, not only on me, but on so many people. It's really the first major blockbuster ever made. First movie to make over $100 million until Star Wars came along 2 years later.
Right? It's unheard of.
Yeah. So, all right, let me ask you then. Since I saw it when it first came out, I was old enough for that. When did you first see it? How old were you?
I definitely was in my teens. I had seen part of part 2 on TNT, and I went on to, it was on AMC TV all the time, and I thought it was very well earned. I never, when watching older movies, I never had any reservations about their place in cinema history. Like, I was pretty much very easily entertained by it. It was just as advertised,
Yeah. Well, the thing that I love about the movie is that I just saw it again at the drive-in. They show it once a year at the drive-in where I live.
Do they really?
Yeah. And the movie's
It's funny how it's now rated R.
What was that?
Yeah, when you re-release it, it often has an R rating.
Oh, really? Well, what's funny? The MPAA was a lot less strict back then. So it definitely would have been R back then. It was only PG when it first came out in 1975. But it's funny because if you read the book, did you ever have a chance to read the book?
I didn't read the book. We were talking about some of the novelizations and how some of them actually make the lackluster sequels make better sense.
Yeah. Well, no, the book.
I knew the book was mixed, but it was a big bestseller, and
yeah. Well,
Piranha went deeper on what's in the book, kind of ironically, the knockoff.
Well, yeah, no, I love Piranha.
Everybody does. I mean, that's what formed the Joe Dante Spielberg family, but it's just funny how it took that to kind of get people out of their shells and realize, oh, you can be witty.
Yeah. Well, the book to me I really don't even think Peter Benchley is that good of a writer. I remember reading the book.
Yeah, he's kind of like half of Stephen King's adaptations where he's got a good idea, but it's not always well executed.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, because I know the book so well, where Hooper's having an affair with Brody's wife. The Mayor Vaughn is involved with the mafia.
That's a great start.
Yeah, it's just there's so much more drama. And so what Spielberg and Carl Gottlieb
took it all out.
They were writing. They didn't even have a script. They didn't even have actors. They were writing the movie every night. Somebody would say, "Well, where do we get my lines?" Like, "Well, we're writing them tonight. We'll give them to you tomorrow." They were just writing it as they were filming. They were so over budget. The shark. I mean, there's a whole documentary called "The Shark Is Not Working," because that's all you used to hear on the beach, like the walkie-talkies. Yep, Richard Dreyfuss. The shark is still not working, but that actually worked in their favor because they had to film around that. And Steven Spielberg is a huge Hitchcock fan, so Hitchcock is more.
Anyone else would have just shit themselves. They'd be like, "What?
Yeah, well, that's why I like it. Spielberg was only 27 years old when he was making this movie, and he said, "I don't think I would ever make this movie." He goes, "There was two things that helped me make this movie: being naive and being stupid, and being young. Being stupid, naive, and young. Those three things." And he said, "I don't think I'd ever," because
I can't imagine the world without him.
What was that?
I can't imagine the world without him.
Oh, I know.
But can you imagine like just Steven just saying, you know what, I'm done. I just got one movie in me.
Oh, I know. Well, he first came, but the reason he got this one was because he came out with a TV movie called Duel, which I love that movie. Written by Richard Matheson, who's one of my favorite writers.
All these Universal TV movies of the week, and I mean, that's kind of the other interesting thing is all the directors picked for the sequels have all done competent work. Like the guy for Part 2 had done stuff like Kojak, same thing with the guys who did Part 3 and 4. They just pretty much were doing all these syndicated Universal TV shows, and this was their chance to make it big.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of that, Spielberg got to start directing TV shows like Night Gallery. He also did Columbo episodes. The Night Gallery episode is funny because he was doing a show called Eyes, and it was originally supposed to star Bette Davis. And Bette Davis said, "There's no way I'm working with a boy that is this young." So if you know the history of Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, Joan Crawford said, "I'll gladly do it," because she hated Bette Davis. I mean, the whole whatever happened to Baby Jane is very much true. Those two hate each other.
It's very meta, yeah.
So what happened was, but she did the episode. That episode won what's an Emmy for best whatever it was at the time.
Unheard of today, yeah.
Yep. So she won. So I love the fact that Bette Davis refused to work with Spielberg because he was only 21 years old at the time. So he did stuff like that, and then that's when he saw the script at Universal a lot, and they knew something big was coming out because Peter Benchley just released that novel in '74, and they said, "All right, we got to do something with this." And he goes, "Let me do it." And they really did not want him at all. And I don't know how many times he was threatened to be fired. He was so over budget. He couldn't get anything done. But I love the fact that it's like you said, he stuck with it. They kept on going at it. He said, "I didn't have a chance to have fun." He goes, "There's Richard Dreyfuss, who's my age, 27 years old. He's out there partying, bringing back a new woman every night. There I am writing a script daily with Carl Gottlieb. He did The Jerk. He did Odd Couple. So many different things. He also played Meadows in the movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was a sitcom starring there.
Yep. So he played Meadows in the movie, but then in the book, Meadows had a much bigger part, and he said the worst part of writing that screenplay was cutting my character out of that. But they went with less is more. There was so much less.
You have to at that point
drama.
Just to get it done, man. But I see so many other people who just want to talk shit about the shark, and it's like, well, see, internet memes are not criticism, but you see so many, there's like, that's the final word. I'm like, oh no, we're just getting started here.
I can tell you, I saw the movie when it first came out in the theaters, and including my mother, when the shark jumps on the boat and grabs Quint, my mother jumped out of her seat and screamed. She wasn't the only one. People were screaming. People were a little covering their eyes. So I don't care. I mean, maybe people that are young and see like, oh, it looks so fake or this and that. I really don't think so. And that movie had such an impact where people were afraid to go into the ocean. Not me.
Oh, and it's a supernatural shark. It's not a real shark like a shark you and I see today and every day. And it's just like, what do you guys want? Like, why are you bashing this?
Well, I think it's way better and more realistic than Meg. I did not like Meg at all. I thought that was just stupid.
No, that makes sense because that movie, I don't get it.
No, it's to me like one of the best movies made of all time. It's such a great character study. I mean, you have Quint, you have Hooper, you have Brody, you have Mayor Vaughn. It's just so many great characters, and it was very, very well acted. And when you watch the movie, it's just like I said, I've seen the movie at least 100 times, probably more. And every time I watch it, I'm still not bored by it. I still, love another thing that makes the movie is the music. John Williams, to me, is my all-time favorite composer.
We pretty much summed it up. It's like you can't not have that music in there. Like, what would you have in there? Piano or elevator music? No.
Well, it's funny. I was watching a documentary on John Williams, and he said the first time he showed Spielberg the theme for Jaws, Spielberg thought he was kidding. He was right. No, where's the real one?
He didn't dig it at first, but
he goes, dun 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 dun. He goes. Then he goes, I thought he was going to break in, like exactly what you said, Spielberg. So I thought he was going to break into some Beethoven, some Mozart, some classical music. But but those two notes are so effective and scared the shit out of so many people. And if you watch the movie, the music is great, like especially when they're on the ocean and they're chasing the shark, and it's just the music and they're chasing the barrels. I love that soundtrack. When I was at that, like I said, I was 7. My brothers were a little bit younger, so we'd all buy the soundtracks. One brother had Star Wars, I had Jaws, the other one had Close Encounters.
Oh, sweet.
And, the music. I mean, whenever somebody says, "Oh, classical music is boring," yeah, watch a movie without music and tell me how boring it is. And John Williams is the master of that. I mean, there's so many great composers out there, but even Spielberg said, he goes, "I wouldn't be anybody without John Williams." John Williams has done, I think,
mostly all of his music.
Yeah, I think he only missed 1 or 2. But
people are insane though. Sometimes it's like, guys, you cannot take today's reality and compare it to what we have now, or with the 70s. It's a whole different ballpark.
Yeah, well, and I prefer, and I don't think I'm being nostalgic when I say this. I mentioned Meg. I said I would see Jaws anytime over Meg. I thought Meg, the special effects were great, but the story was just stupid. The acting really wasn't that good. And this is just my opinion. Other people may disagree with me, but
if it goes into deep hurting territory, then it's not it's not fun.
Like I met Joe Hill several times, who was Stephen King's son, and he said, we were talking about that. He says, Jaws is my all-time favorite movie. And I just interviewed Paul Tremblay, who I mentioned off the air. I said M. Night Shyamalan did his book, Cabin at the End of the World. It was called Knock at the Cabin in theaters. But he goes, Jaws still scares the shit out of me. So these people that are now in the industry writing stuff and making their own things were heavily influenced by that movie and what it became.
Yeah, but I see other guys who are just snobby. Like, older movies don't mean shit to them unless it's brought up in a Tarantino interview. And it's like, oh my lord, come on.
I know. Yeah, I can't.
It takes that to make it matter to you.
See, I go by. I never ever go by if it's popular or not. I usually, if I like it, it could be the worst. People would say it's the worst movie in the world. I'm like, you know what? I loved it. I don't care.
What are you gonna do?
When we were off the air, there were so many movies that you and I talked about that most people would say, "This is shit. Why would you even want to watch that?" And we love it. I love the giallos. I love the Italian gore. A lot of people I talk to are like, "Oh my god, that's stupid," but I don't care. And I mean, I had somebody watch Phantasm recently, and
there's rude people at some of these conventions we've been to. We've been fortunate for the most part, but every once in a while we encounter some real snobs, and it's like, guys, why are you here if you don't want to be here? No one's forcing you to come here.
I hate that. Yeah,
and talk shit to a celebrity. I mean,
I know.
Why would you pay $50 just to bully them?
I know. I don't understand that either. And it's just
go away.
What gets me mad too are we talked about this too, and I think on my show, where some celebrities don't want to talk about what they're most known for. And the one I'm going to tell you about is Linda Blair. I don't want to talk about The Exorcist. Then what are you here for? Well, I don't really care about your. She does great work for saving dogs. I'm happy she does that, but we're not here to talk about that. I'm here because your head spun around and you shoved a crucifix off you.
It was good enough to talk about it the first 20 times. What changed?
Yeah, it's funny because I met her years ago, and I used to be in radio, and she did a bumper for me. It's like, "Oh, you're listening to Rich Sear, and he really makes my head spin." She was laughing about it. She did some great bumpers for me. But then the last couple of years, she's been really snobbish. I said, "Really?" I was just surprised. And I wasn't the only one. I did a couple interviews with people, and people, without even knowing the story, they're like, "You know, one celebrity I can't stand," and everybody brought up Linda Blair. I said, "Wow." I said, so it wasn't just me that had that same experience. I have to say, I did meet Richard Dreyfuss. I interviewed Jeffrey Kramer. I met Susan Backlany. I met, which was one of the greatest, I think, production designers ever, is Joe Alves. That guy did so much for the movie. He helped design the shark. He directed. Well, he directed.
Name I'd like to hear more about. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Joe Alves. You got to check it out. He did. I mean, 2 movies I could think of right off the bat because we're in the '70s were Jaws and Close Encounters. But he's done some. He directed one of the Jawses. I can't remember which one. I think it might have been Jaws 3. But that
sounds right because the other ones had like 3 parts of their name, part 2 and 4.
Yeah. Well, the funniest out of the whole Jaws franchise is Jaws: The Revenge, where the shark follows them from Cape Cod to the Bahamas. Then Ellen Brody's having memories of her husband killing the shark. No, she's having memories of where she wasn't even there. How do you have memories of your husband killing the shark? You weren't even there. You were at home while he was on the orca. It was just a horrible, horrible movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what studio executives looked at that and said, "Oh yeah, we got ourselves a hit here." But you know what it was? It's even worse now. Kevin Smith talks about this all the time. He says they could care less about the content in the movie. All they want is name recognition, gets asses in the seats. They make their money, and then by the time that people realize it sucks, they already have a new movie in there.
2000s DVD special features just don't hold up for me because half the time, like the producers are giving very predictable answers and the actors are in promotion mode, so it's hard to even tell if they even have any commitment to it or if they're just, in brand ambassador mode. And I'm like, come on, guys, I can see through this.
Yeah, it's just unfortunately that's why I love watching more of the low budget independent movies. Like A24 is a great studio. I think they're making so many great movies. And I was listening to
they can be. There's been some duds from them that I can't stand, but there are some good ones like Florida Project and some other tricky horror movies.
Well, that and like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love that movie, and I'm so glad.
Stuff. And then you would love The Farewell.
I gotta check that out. I never saw that.
Aquafina. So a Chinese family goes back to their homeland country to deal with the death of a relative, and it pulls them out of their shell. Like they all start opening up to each other.
Oh, I got you. What's called The Farewell?
Yeah, the Farewell. It's kind of like the Joy Luck Club minus growing up in segregated parts of America, but it's similar in that they're embracing their cultural aspect of their heritage and their way of life, and just seeing all these other comedic and dramatic people just giving very unrecognizable performances.
All right, well, I'll have to check that out. The reason I brought them up was because as I was telling you off there, I listened to an interview with the two brothers that directed, wrote, and produced Talk to Me. It's an Australian horror movie that I loved, but they said that A24 picked it up, and they loved A24 because it's one of the few studios that lets the
gave them a chance
have the carte blanche. They could do whatever they want. They're like, you know what? It's your movie. You make the movie you want. And he said every other studio they talked to turned them down because they didn't want what they wanted. They wanted something different. Much. Yeah, so that's why I brought A24 up. So, I mean, of course, every studio is going to make duds, but I love the fact that they're giving people chances and they're letting them do what they want instead of just saying,
surprise, I lied.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything is so generic now. You get the same types of characters, same plot, the same. It's just nothing's really surprising or different. Maybe that's why this movie threw me, because for a genre that's so hard to be original, I thought it was original. But back to Jaws. So originally, I'm sure you know. I mean, I've read the Jaws log. I don't know how many times. I have a whole table. I gotta find this one. I'm so mad I lost it. When I went to a Jaws convention a couple years ago, they have like a tabletop book, and it has so many great pictures and stories in there that. But I gotta tell you. Well, let's talk about who they wanted first, and then I want to get into like stories. Like originally, Charlton Heston was supposed to play Brody.
Yeah, I can't see that. I get it. He was the go-to at the time, and he had his. I mean, Planet of the Apes. There's no shortage of creature features in his world. So.
Yeah. Well, Spielberg made a great point. He goes, "I don't want an actor who's bigger than a shark." He goes, "I want more unknowns." And Roy Scheider was known. He was known more with French Connection. Yeah. And he was also in what's the other? He was in another. The Sorcerer.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Doing my research, because you and I are going to be doing Killer Joe, which was another freaking movie, and Roy Scheider played in that. But Roy Scheider wanted the role of Father Karras in The Exorcist, and he was going for it. But then he saw this other guy in a play, and they had Stacy Keach already signed. He was ready to go, and
that would have been cool.
Yeah, but he saw that and he goes, "I don't care." And the producers were like, "No, you can't do that." So he goes, "I don't give a shit. Pay Stacy Keach what he need you buy him out of his contract. I want this guy. And it worked out well because the guy that played Father Karras really wasn't an actor. And I really want more of an unknown. They didn't want an unknown. They wanted somebody with a name. But Roy Scheider wanted that role. So that's why he almost didn't want to do Sorcerer, because he was so pissed off at Freak. But he ended up doing it.
And then it's just ironic. He doesn't want to do the sequel, but he comes back for part 2 and does a real good job. But you would never know that.
Oh, for which one?
For Jaws 2, but it's so funny. You would never know because he just is really giving on screen. But you're like, really? He hated working on this? Wow, I had no idea.
Oh no, he liked working on Jaws. It wasn't the one that really thought.
I thought he hated that he couldn't get out of his contract for that.
No. I was talking about William Friedkin.
So what?
He wanted.
I thought there was another movie he did. Maybe I'm thinking of Sequest. He hated the contract for that, and he wanted to get out of it.
Oh, maybe that might have been it. Jaws. I know he really didn't hate the one that thought it was going to be a turkey, and he wasn't blaming Spielberg. He was blaming Universal because they were threatening. Was Richard Dreyfuss? Richard Dreyfuss kept saying it's going to win Turkey of the Year award, but you have to look at it this way. It's like, I mean, without all you're hearing are the loud hydraulics of the shark sinking to the bottom of the ocean. As soon as you put it in there, there's no music, there's no editing, so you're seeing all this like this is gonna suck. And back then they didn't have CGI, so they said they would try to set the shot, but the water was so, the waves were moving, everything. So they finally get set. And as soon as they'd start filming, you'd see a sailboat go by. So they'd have to stop filming. They'd wait and wait. You finally see the sailboat out of the picture. And guess what? They start filming. You see the sailboat coming back. And they said they went through so much of that. And even Spielberg said, I would never, ever do a movie like that ever again. He goes, I was just young and stupid, as I mentioned earlier. I'm so glad because the movie is so much more genuine, so much more realistic when it's on the ocean instead of in a tank.
I can't imagine anything being made like that today because now it's just it's hard to get it to even, work to begin with.
Oh, I know. And back then, Bob Matty, who did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, they got him. He did it wasn't 20,000 Leagues. Was the octopus, the serpent, the whatever it was? He made the monster in that movie.
I think I know.
Yeah, he made that monster in that movie. So that's why they said, let's get this guy. He knows what he's doing. And he said, but the problem was they never tested it in salt water. So as soon as they put it in the ocean, boom, sunk like a rock. And they had so many other issues. They had an orca that was supposed to sink, an orca that was supposed to stay afloat. The one that was supposed to stay afloat sunk, where a couple of the actors almost drowned. And there's this part in the book I was reading where they're trying to save the actors. And one of the guys goes, fuck the actors, save the film. Because they had so much film that was going to be lost.
Oh, man.
That movie was, I mean, people talk about curses on movies. That movie went through so much.
So much shit.
But as I don't know if I mentioned it off the air, but it might have been on the air where I said that because the shark didn't work, I think it made a much better movie. Because the less you see, sometimes less is more. The less you see the shark, built the suspense, and you have combined with John Williams' score, it was just a great character study of three guys searching for a monster.
Not something you're going to get nowadays. Now everyone's going to be I saw that Super Bowl ad. It broke the internet. And followed by clickbait of, what does this Easter egg in this trailer mean? And it's like, and they're already outdating themselves before a movie even comes out. And, I don't know if you've heard this. You want to talk Universal? I'm sure you've heard the story about the damn Waterworld, how set didn't actually sink according to a new UK documentary on the Arrow Blu-ray. But again, the damage was done. People were talking about it and wanted to shit on Kevin Costner, who was full of himself back then. And so it was dead on arrival before it even came out. They were just like, there's no way it's going to be good. And so then when people talk enough shit, it's almost as bad as InfoWars or AI, even if it's not true, they're going to keep misconstruing it until the end of time.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you. And actually, it's funny because Wonder World, I enjoyed. It wasn't the best movie in the world. At the time, it was the most expensive movie ever made.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was just...
It was a good movie, yeah.
It was just annoying to have to just kind of explain to people. It's like, if you think that is bad, no, honey, you have not seen too many things. But...
Yeah.
But like now if people hear about any disputes on a movie set, like people are instantly like fired and other shit, and you're like, really, seriously?
Well, yeah. Look what happened to James Gunn. An email from 15 years prior gets him fired. And what I love about that story is his cast said, if he's gone, we're gone. And I love the fact they stood behind him and they said, all right, we got to bring him back. The only good thing that came out of that was while he was on hiatus after being fired, he did Blackburn, which is a great movie they did with his brother about an evil Superman.
So that
worked out. Yeah. But unfortunately, you have to. I mean, there's so much political correctness, and you can't make anything that might offend one person. It's just the movies. I mean, not everything. There's some good stuff out there, but there's so much.
It has to, like you say, it has to have a name, but like it's gotten even worse to where it's like, and they got to be on Game of Thrones or The Mandalorian. Like they have to be one of the top rated shows that broke the internet. It can't just be someone who did an awesome show back in the 80s and is overdue for a comeback.
They wanted Charlton Heston. They wanted Sterling Hayden instead of Robert Shaw. But I'm not sure if you know who he is. He was a big star in the 70s.
Was he on the streets of San Francisco, or am I thinking something?
No, you're thinking Mike Franciscus. Or James Franciscus. who played Charlton Heston's replacement in the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, this fucker. This guy from Asphalt Jungle. Okay. Yes, I have seen him more than I realized. Oh, my God.
Yes.
He's the police. He's the crooked cop in The Godfather. Oh, wow.
Yep. So they wanted him. And I forgot what happened with him, but they got Robert Shaw, he was a huge actor. Time he did Force 10 from Navarone. He did Black Sunday, which was a great movie written by Tom Harris, who did Hannibal Lecter. So he was a big actor. But the funny thing is he did not like Richard Dreyfuss at all. I thought Richard Dreyfuss was a pompous kid who didn't know how to act. All he cared about was partying. So he said Richard Dreyfuss said it was so unnerving because right before he was doing a scene, he would like whisper, "Make sure you don't fuck up your lines," and that would just unnerve him. He would do things like that. And he said like
the best guys in the world can't stop shit like that from going down. You know?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that actually made the two roles better because if you notice all the animosity between Hooper and Quint, a lot of that was not fake. That was real because they really didn't get along, but it worked out well for the movie. And I guess like a lot of times they would be filming for 15, 16 hours a day. And they said the one sure way to get off the set early was to give Robert Shaw something to drink because Robert Shaw loved to get drunk on the set. And he would sometimes be slurring his words and they have to stop filming and wait till he sobered up. And the one scene that...
Can you imagine that now?
No.
I'd heard people who had worked on everything from like they were like an assistant on like a Russell Crowe movie and he was too drunk to remember any coherent lines.
You know who I'm sure you know who Lon Chaney Jr. is. He played the werewolf.
Oh yeah, I love that dude.
He used to always say, he goes, "Don't film anything after 3:00 because that's when he started drinking." Like he was just.
I did hear about that. I think you actually told me that, and it was
yeah. So and then there was I can't remember the other guy's name. Did you ever see the movie? Oh my God, it stars Karen Black. Oh, Oliver Reed. He's another one. But when I talked to the guy, I talked to the kid that was in that movie. He said, he would go drink every single night, but he'd come on the set bright and early and know all his lines. He was great. So some people could handle that. I personally wouldn't be able to. I'd be all too hungover. I wouldn't be able
like, fuck you.
Concentrate. But Robert Shaw definitely wasn't one of them. And they said like during the USS Indianapolis scene, which was the scene where he talks about, which is a real life story. The sharks attacked the
great speech he rewrote. Can you imagine anyone doing that today now?
No, they said Robert Shaw was a great writer. That was another thing that he was. But he says in the scene, Quint's supposed to be drunk. I want to try and do it drunk, and they said he was such a sloppy mess. They're like, we can't do it. And then Robert Shaw actually did apologize to Spielberg. He goes, you know what? I'm sorry, it didn't work. So they did it again, obviously when he was sober.
Just the nerve, man. The nerve.
Yeah, but it's funny because like sometimes things like that make the movie better. It's horrible to go through when you're trying to make it, but when you see it finished product, like the whole animosity between Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss,
it's worth it being angry for that 48 hours.
Yeah, and and then the shark not working, that made the movie better. There's all these different things that happened. And the one thing I think is great, like in the book, we probably talked about this, and hopefully it's not a spoiler alert. The movie's been out for 50 years, 75.
I haven't seen it, man. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't tell. In the book, the shark just dies from pure tiredness, where Brody has his eyes open with that, and his eyes are burning from the salt water. He's watching the shark sink because he can't take it anymore. And so Spielberg said, "Nah, we got to do something." So in the movie, obviously, he takes the oxygen tank and blows it up. So Peter Benchley said, "There's no way anybody's gonna. This is bullshit." And Spielberg said, "I have them for an hour and 55 minutes. Trust me,
I'm gonna use them.
They'll be there." So at one of the premieres that they had, he said after the shark blew up, everybody stood up, standing ovation. They sat down again. The credits came up. They stood up, standing ovation for 10 minutes again. Sat down again. The credits ended. Another standing ovation. And Benchley went to Spielberg and said, "You know what? I'll never doubt you again. I apologize." But yeah, like I said, Peter Benchley, to me, like my favorite book of his, I didn't read a lot of his books, but my favorite book of his was The Deep. And even then, that wasn't really that good. But his
we all discussed it. It was a better movie than a book.
Yeah, the movie was definitely way better. But even in the book, Romer Treese, which was another Robert Shaw character, he dies. They never find the evidence. And it's funny because a lot of times I do like movies with realistic endings, but with movies like Jaws and The Deep, I
need
love
a closure.
Yeah, I just love those, the big explosion. And it's funny with that. We talked about Duel. The explosion of the shark, all the same sounds are the same sounds of the car being the truck going off the cliff at the end of the Duel. He took the sounds from that movie and pushed over to Jaws.
Reversed it, yeah.
Yep.
Oh man.
So, well, before I do have some stories about meeting the cast, but what's your favorite Jaws story? Like, what kind of impact did it have on you as a teenager?
I'm heavily inspired by it because I just on how each time it's brought up, like just how Steven just learned how to mature on that day, just not show that he was losing it. Anyone else would have probably, like all these other people who have, lost control of their movie, probably done a similar thing where they would have just given too many notes back to the studio exec, and that was their grounds for dismissal,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The two producers on the set were Richard Brown and David Brown, Richard Zanuck. And
yes,
one time Spielberg said, "I can't take it anymore. I'm sick of this. I'm quitting." And he said, David Brown and Richard Zanuck had Jaws shirts on. And they walked in there. And he goes, that sort of like gave him hope again. It's, "All right." He goes, "We're behind you." Universal, like they're the producers, but Universal is the one that was really trying to, or the studio heads were trying to fire him. And so he said that started to re-energize him. They went back and because it was supposed to be maybe a 30-day
way too young to be talking this shit,
Oh yeah, exactly. Like he was working with actors that were in the business forever. I mean, he did a couple TV shows like Columbo and Night Gallery. He did Dual TV movie, did Sugarland Express. That was really his only major feature. So he kept control. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he went through with it. When I saw the movie, as I mentioned before, I was 7 years old. So the only scene that scared the shit out of me was the Ben Gardner head in the boat scene, where Hooper goes down there because they find Ben Gardner's boat, and he finds the shark tooth, and they're going through, and the head pops out. So the 16 times after that, I would always turn my head because I knew it was coming. So let's fast forward to 2012. I'm at a Jaws Fest in Martha's Vineyard where they filmed the movie. And I was wearing a shirt that had Hooper in the cage, and this woman comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, that is a really cool shirt. I like that." I said, "Oh, thank you." So we're talking for a little while, and somebody goes, "Hey, Christy, it's about to begin. Come on, we got to go." So I made a joke. I said, "Boy, it seems like you know people. I want to hang out with you." She goes, "Come on, let's go." So I get up to the front. On the left side of me is Deputy Hendricks. On the right side of me is Alex Kittner. I said, "Wow, maybe she does know people." So we're talking. People are asking questions. So on the way out, people are, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" I don't know who they thought I was because they saw me. I said, "You know what? I don't want to disappoint my fans. I don't want to disappoint them. So I said, of course I'll sign it. So I signed like a big R and did all scribbles. I have no idea who they thought I was. And even when they're showing people the autograph, I don't know who they explain me. Like, oh, which one's this? I really don't know. So I'm talking to the lady for a while, and I said, I had to get, my parents live in Hyannisport, so I had to get to the ferry by 9:30 to make it off the island of Martha's Vineyard. And I said, oh, I'm not going to make it. And this Christy said, don't worry about it. I'll give you a ride. I have no idea who this lady is. I said, yeah, you can give me a ride. So it's about 9:25. And she goes, I said, we got to go. She goes, all right. So we're going. And she goes, where's my car? And I thought she was kidding. She said, do you know where my car is? I said, no. So I said, it was 9:27. I have like 3 minutes to get to the ferry. Oh, there it is. She gets me there and she goes, you know what? I like you. You have a great sense of humor. I want to keep in touch with you. Give me your phone number. All right.
That's how you make those friends, man.
Yeah. Well, no, you got to hear this. The next morning, she calls me up. She goes, do you know who I am? I said, no. She goes, you know the guy that played Ben Gardner? Yeah. That's my father. Your father scared the shit out of me. So the guy that played Ben Gardner, the head that found the boat, that was her father in real life.
Oh, man. Did you know about the pranksters, how one of them actually became a deputy in the town where it was filmed and reported a shark incident?
No, I didn't know about that. That's funny.
It's just reality is stranger than fiction sometimes.
So wait, what? Tell me a story again.
It's like what one of the pranksters in the movie talking shit, like actually became a deputy in real life and was called to the scene of an incident claiming that there was like a shark or some shit like that. I'm like,
oh, that's funny. Because as I mentioned before, I said it's the first really blockbuster. That was the creation of the blockbusters. And then
Star Wars kind of stole the thunder, but I think if anything, kind of like Alien, like studios got stupider because it's kind of like how you see some of the producers of some blockbuster like Terminator. They're just thinking people like it only because of the, explosions. And it's like, no, people like the story and all the other spectacle. But again, kind of like you were talking earlier on, South Park, same kind of deal. Is like people pay attention to what they think, and it's like you really aren't in on the joke, are you?
I know.
You're laughing, but do you actually get it, or do you think it's just stupid? It's kind of like Naked Gun. Are you actually? It's smart, stupid. Like it's exactly. Totally knows how ridiculous it is, but some people just say, I thought it was funny because it's stupid. I'm like, well, but it's also aware of how stupid it is compared to someone else who, let's say any of these other guys, like Seth Rogen, I don't think he's in on the joke on how stupid his movies are. I think he just wings it while he's high. I can't say that about a Zucker brothers who actually put some serious thought into the crazy shit they were about to unleash, Oh,
no, exactly. No, that's a perfect example because that's actually the best example because I would think of I don't really like the stupid humor. I'm not really a big
it takes you out of it because you're like, who is this for? Like, it's kind of like when you see a movie aimed at teens, is this for all the hipsters and millennials, or is this actually for, I'm a millennial and I don't care for the whole millennial, I didn't have time to catch up on this. Yes, you did. And
exactly.
But then I see other shit. Like I see just other trends, and it's like I didn't expect Cocaine Bear to be a surprise hit. I didn't. I just figured, I don't know, man. It's kind of like The Interview and all these other movies where it was based off a internet thread or rumor that got out of control, and somehow someone thought they could market it. I really don't get how people even pitch a movie nowadays, because it seems like so many people will just steal your idea,
Well, I know. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because people told me I would love Cocaine Bear, and I said, this looks like the stupidest movie ever. But I never saw it, but people told me that I would love it. They're like, if you liked, I'm trying to think what they told me I liked.
Piranha,
yeah, which I love Piranha. So
Piranha is amazing, yeah. But
let's.
Commentary is great too.
You know what? I love the movies that became the Jaws knockoffs because there was Grizzly, which was a great movie. They call it Jaws with Claws. I love that movie with Linda Day George, which I interviewed her. She is such a fun person.
Oh my God.
I loved her. And she was in another one called Day of the Animals with Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen is the best because kind of like Bill Shatner, when you see him in a movie, you don't know. I just saw this awesome movie where he and Charlton Heston is forced to perform music for the Nazis while they're in the third act. It kind of becomes a Guns N' Roses where they got to get Jewish prisoners out of this concentration camp at the end. But it's so funny. Yeah. Just, you forget, post Forbidden Planet that, yeah, he is a straight man, but then he became the straight man in stupid comedies. But it's because,
well, that's what makes him so funny, because he does it with such a straight face, and he's not playing the role to be funny. He's playing the straight person, and that's what makes it so funny.
Kind of like Ernie Hudson, Michael Ironside. Some of these other B-listers could do a comedy really well because all they got to do is just sell it while also not trying to look at the camera while they tell the joke.
Yeah, and that's what made Airplane hilarious.
And now everything's too self-aware, and you're like, stop imitating Deadpool. Deadpool worked, but it's a one-trick pony. Like, it's a special kind of comedy that guy is good at. Like, it's kind of like when you see other people trying to rip off the Stooges or Jackie Chan. I'm like, well, you got the physical act down, but you're not a good leading man. Maybe you should just be the henchman or the supporting character, because you can't carry the movie.
Perfect example of that is after Airplane and Naked Gun become such big hits, then they start coming out with these stupid movies like Loaded Weapon 1. And,
that's a guilty pleasure. But yeah, I know what you mean.
But they weren't as funny because the other ones were original, but it just seems like the other movies after that tried to emulate the success of Naked Gun and Police Squad and Airplane, and it's just, you couldn't do it. Instead of like trying to copy that, just make up brand new content. Even though I think those were the Zucker brothers that made those.
It was National Lampoon, but yeah, I mean, look at Neil Israel. He was out of the Zucker brothers factory, but then when movies started to imitate Police Academy, it got to be too much too in the parody field. And I mean, we were talking Michael J. White off air. I think he's kind of one of the last few, but like you said, it seems like he is just. I actually use the Police Academy rule for any franchise oversaturation. I'm always like, stop after part 7. Stop after part 7.
It's sad that you got that far. You have to go to part 7.
You have to go to the odd number out.
It's just like, well, for horror movies too, Friday the 13th just got so stupid after a while. Jason goes to space. Jason in New York City.
The one with Carrie and all, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, and unfortunately, as we talked about, is like they don't really care about the content. They just like the name. Oh, Friday 13th, a new one. Let's get people in the seats, just like with the latest Exorcist.
Even some of the smartest people in the world will still go see the stupidest movie in the world because they just can't help it. It's morbid curiosity. And sometimes it's, just get a beer, have a few laughs. I'm like, I'm not going to be drinking during this piece of shit. This is going to make me puke. It's so bad.
The only problem now is that there's way too many options. All these streaming services, people have much more options. Before you'd be like, well, no, there's really nothing else going on. Let's check it out. What do we have to lose? Now people can say, you know what? I got burned before. I'm not going to see this new movie again. The last one I thought was going to be good sucked. I'll just stay home and watch something on Paramount. I'll just stay home and see what Hulu has to offer. So studios got to be careful.
I did like the new Hellraiser, but yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't see that one yet. I did want to see that. I heard good things about that. But you said it perfectly before. I said, I don't love a movie that's aware of itself. I love a movie that is where the filmmaker is passionate. This is what they really love. They're trying their best to make a good movie. And maybe it's some people, but when it's bad intentionally, that's when I just tune out.
Yeah, it's like, why are we here? What are we doing here?
Yeah. I mean, you're basically just trying to say, "Oh, this is we're making a cult classic." You don't make a cult classic; it becomes a cult classic.
It gets earned.
Yes, like The Room, like Rocky Horror Picture Show, like all
The Apple.
Yeah. So that's what I love movies where the filmmakers just think that they're like the next Citizen Kane.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
even just stuff like. I don't mind the deliberately bad ones, but sometimes it doesn't work either because now they're too self-aware. Like I busted my gut out laughing at Samurai Cop 2.
Oh, that was
Some people thought it was too much. I'm like, okay, I get it.
That was good. I saw that one for Riff Tracks. That was a good one.
Oh well, but that was the original. I saw the sequel.
Oh, I didn't even see the sequel. I didn't even realize there was a sequel.
Yeah, and I think it helps that Matt Hannon, he used to be a bodyguard for the likes of Stallone, and he ended up also having a brief stand-up comedy career. I think he's just very talented. I would love to see him in more, but he hasn't done much.
Oh, so this movie, I have to check it out now. So this movie they were trying to be bad. So it was they were aware of what they were doing.
Yeah, just very trashy, and yet somehow it did it for me. But don't get me wrong, there's plenty of other ones that have tried that method, and I'm like, like Hobo with a Shotgun was in the original, Grindhouse, and I was just bored shitless out of my mind. They casted Rutger Hauer, and I'm like, I am not engaged with this at all. Like, this is just a very lame Death Wish tribute homage. I'm just waiting for shit to happen, and it's just boring the shit out of me.
Yeah, I saw that movie once. I can't even really remember what it was about. So I agree with you on that one. The original Death Wishes with Charles Bronson, the first two anyway, were great. Just like Dirty Harry. I love those movies.
He killed the giggler. Oh, that's part 3. My bad.
Well, yeah. Which one is where he actually? And I'm not even kidding. There's cocaine at a retirement village or something like that, retirement home.
I think it's part 4. I think.
Yeah, I think so. It was the last one. Whatever was the last.
Oh, part 5. I don't even know what the hell is part 5, but it's like he just has to snipe a guy at like an ice ring and other shit, and he just clearly doesn't want to be there. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's when it overran its welcome. Stayed a little longer than they should have, but just the movies they would never be able to make movies like that anymore because they were so politically incorrect. Which and that's another thing too. It's like everybody gets so offended by everything. You have to make something that's so sanitized that everybody's
like the only one.
Oh yeah, I don't get that either. Like you said, I mean, stuff that
sometimes he's in on the joke. Then there's other stuff where I'm like, I think he's just being a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
What is his deal with feet? I don't get it.
No, I know. No, he admitted he has a feet fetish.
Anything else you'd like to promote on the Claws Corner?
I just want to tell people who might not know me right now, I have my own YouTube channel.
He's not rich.
It's called Rich. What was that?
One on TV.
Yes, exactly. And please don't call me Shirley.
Oh.
The name is Rich, and I see it's probably on there right now. It's spelled CYR. The name of the show that is on there, I have several shows on my YouTube channel, but the one to watch is The Claws Corner or Real Talk, which Cameron's been on several times. If you want to follow me on Facebook, I do a lot of other things too. So it's Rich Sayre, and I'm on Instagram under Rich the Claw Sayre. And as Cameron mentioned, I do have a book. It's called Confessions of a Frenetic Mind, 5 Tales of Blood-Curdling Terror. That's found on Amazon. Just make sure you type in my name along with the title, because for some reason you type in my name, it doesn't populate immediately. I don't know why, but on there you can also buy the book. You could buy the hoodie. You could buy the T-shirt. You could buy the phone case. Get the whole package. It's really good. And most of all, I want to thank Cameron for once again having me on the show, because I love the show. I could talk about movies for hours, as you can see, and I love the fact that you have a show where you give people the opportunity to talk about things like this. Because
dude, I see so many who will just ignore it. I'm like, oh, but who was that guy? He was promoting himself.
Yeah, why not? It's like I can't. It's so funny when I talk to people. People teach me, or no. People ask me to teach them how to promote themselves. I said, I don't like talking about myself. I said, if you want something to be seen, you have to make people know that if you miss it, you missed out on.
You exist.
Yeah, exactly. Or you missed out on one of the best parties. You missed out on one of the best shows. You missed out on one of the best. Just let people know it's like you're going to regret not seeing this. And they're like, I think marketing is just as much of an art as being talented in whatever you're doing. It's a whole different animal.
Don't hold back, man. Don't hold back.
Exactly. And the reason I'm bringing that up was because you were saying that people were saying that, like, oh, who's this guy? All he does is promote himself. Well, that's smart to do, because you're doing something. You're doing it because you want people to see it. I mean, you're doing it for
Those guys sound jealous.
Yeah. You know what gets me? I just had this conversation with my last guest. I said, when people say, "Oh, well, I can do this, I can do that," I said, "Well, then why don't you just do it? Stop bothering me. If you think you can do a radio show just like me, don't tell me. Show me. Do one." And they're the people that never do anything. They love talking about everybody else and how easy it is.
They talk the shit, but they don't shoot it.
Exactly. So I really do appreciate you having me on the show. I'm going to have you on my show as many times. I mentioned before, Cameron has carte blanche on my show. You can come on anytime, talk about any subject.
Thank you, buddy.
And
always a party.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Anytime,
I will talk to you very soon, man.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up